Girl, I saw your beaver flash. I'll never be the same.
Oh, yes.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
All right, everybody. It's 1 hour time. Of course, the show where we talk about one movie for 1 effing hour. I am Evan Husney, and we got to my left here, Mr. T, Big T, Tom Fitzgerald. What's going on, man?
Hey, we meet again.
Here we are. Another week, another movie, another year, of course, we're covering here on the show. But first, before we get into that, we got Mr. Marcus Herring over to my right. Marcus.
What's up, guys? And it's 1969, okay?
Right. That is right. We are doing this new thing with the show where, hey, it's episode 69, so we're going to do a movie from 1969. And of course, you, the listeners or the viewers, if you're watching on YouTube, you voted for this movie. It was between 4 films. It was extremely close. Once again, we've been doing these polls every week. We did 1968 last week and 67 the year before. And it was a close race, but the winner, of course, is Putney Swope by Robert Downey, and that's the film we're doing tonight, boys. And very
I'm so
excited.
glad it won, too,
Yeah.
actually.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's cool shit. It's one of those films I would say we would have on our short list anyways.
Oh, yeah.
And there's lots of fun stuff to talk about as well. I'll find out tonight. All the others are totally cool. And again, just a reminder, it's not like we're dusting the other 4 choices and we'll never even speak of them again. It's like, we can return to those another time. It's just a fun way to kind of toss around titles and also just see what, it was close.
Yeah, it was close, but it's great to see what you guys want to see us talk about, and it's just cool that y'all want to see us talk about Putney Swope, so we're doing it. And I got to shout out last week's episode, which was 1 hour on Targets, was a lot of fun. That again, a movie I wouldn't have bet on winning that poll. But I'm again glad it did. It was up against Rosemary's Baby and things like that. But it was a great hour. We went into that movie, fascinating movie, very prescient subject matter, and we went deep on it. So I urge everybody, if you haven't checked it out, it's in the archives. 1 hour on Peter Bogdanovich's Targets.
Yeah,
was
just
really
such a sour, just such a sour tone. Again, like I was saying, in the summer. The bummer summer of 1968 is, of course, this film was hatched in that time.
Yeah.
And it's most unpleasant, but also stylistically very innovative. I mean, if you just take a step back, like that's a narrative that's uncommon. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And we should also say, too, good segue into this week's episode. Last week's episode was themed around the idea of cusp.
Cusp! Oh, that's right. Oh, that's so last week, man. Cusp. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the way this works is cusps aren't there, then they're there, then they're not there. So this is it. Ain't no more cusp talk because we're done. Because now it's the summer of 69 and there's mental films like this one.
Yep.
Crazy shit. Splashing the screen like Easy Rider, or even last summer, one of our other choices. They're playing, like movie houses uptown, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's done. The dam broke.
Yeah.
And this is one of the films that really helped the dam break, so that the next 10 years or so are going to be very, very different. Things like SNL are imaginable, for instance.
True. That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. So, all right. So before we get into tonight's episode, just got to do a little shout out here. Guys, a few weeks back, we launched the official OFH Patreon. That's right. So at patreon.com/1fucking-hour, you can sign up there because we are doing, it's the only place you can get these, but we're doing feature-length audio commentary tracks to choice movies. Super, super fun. We just did our second audio commentary track, which is available up there right now. We did a feature-length audio commentary track on Star Wars from 1977, which
real deep cut.
Yeah. But it actually turned out to be pretty darn interesting in terms
it's
of...
awesome.
It was. Yeah, it was really cool.
We like talking about Star Wars here,
Yeah.
Well, if I can say one I'll just put it this way and then I'll stop. Is just I think it's a really perfect example of how we see things, right or wrong, and how we approach this fucking hour, so to speak.
Right.
And okay, everybody and their grandma has taken a turn at like a movie like Star Wars.
Yeah.
But this is our take. And maybe it's not different, maybe it is, but it's our take. It's idiosyncratic. But I do think that with that mission statement, we think like, what's like underreported,
Yeah.
like what's underappreciated from these films that are just, huge monoliths. And, so we would talk about, charred corpses smoldering for like a long time. That doesn't happen every day.
No,
this is an example.
Exactly. We went pretty hard on the smoldering, but also just the underappreciated thing about, I think, original Star Wars, which is the things that are not on screen, the things that you don't see, that's left up to the imagination. And that's really the magic behind that original film, is it left so much to your imagination. And I think it just sparks a lot of inspiration in that way. But I think the best thing I can equate the 1 fucking hour commentary experience is, if you like, hearing us talk about movies, I mean, you must if you're here listening to this right now, but it's kind of one step further because we're actually watching movies together. So I think it's a kind of cool experience. And all it is $5 a month. You'll get unfettered access to all the audio commentary tracks and 24-hour early access to all of the episodes that we put up on the YouTube channel or the podcast feed. So little perk there, and it's the best way to support the show. So if you like what we're doing, it's the best way to support us to keep this thing going, and we appreciate that, all the people that have signed up so far. So patreon.com/1 fucking hour. All right, now let's get to the show, guys. You ready to do this? Should we do it?
Let's do it.
Ready to rip?
Should we hit the clock?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yup.
All right, clock incoming. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Boom. All right. All right, just a little bit of background on tonight's film. I think I pulled this synopsis from, the Eclipse Criterion box set version. I think. Maybe, or somewhere else. I can't remember. But here we go. The most popular and widely distributed film of Robert Downey is this offbeat classic about the antics that ensue after Putney Swope, the token black man on the board of a Madison Avenue advertising agency, is inadvertently elected its chairman. Putney summarily fires the Whiteys, replaces them with Black Power apostles, renames the company Truth and Soul Incorporated, and proceeds to wreak politically incorrect havoc, and a cultural revolution ensues. A scathing, taboo-busting, hysterical farce about the foibles of the American advertising industry, particularly referring to the racial prejudices of the time and since. And then, of course, in 2016, it was selected by the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress, citing that it is a culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant film. So that's the movie.
Look at Bob. Getting recognition.
There he is. That's right. So, of course, from 1969, and this is episode 69. So let's get on it here. Tom, maybe I'll just quickly kick it off to you. I mean, Robert Downey is just this extraordinarily fascinating character in the history of cinema. I mean, obviously, many people know his son went on to much different, more mainstream heights, of course. But Robert Downey was breaking waves in the 1960s. So why don't you set us up here for Robert Downey in the cultural context?
Right. Well, just generally, here's this guy who he's a little older than like the usual 60s generation. He came of age more in the 50s, and
right.
He was, from what I understand, he was kind of like a mischievous, fun-loving, deadpan kind of joker, in his whole life, just how he did things. And, he stumbled into making underground films because he was, he would tell you oh, look kind of fun and, look easy and why not? That's his whole attitude. He gets thrown out of the army, and then he, happens upon a camera and he's like, let's start shooting stuff. This is like 1960, 61, 63. Right. And he made short films. And I think what distinguishes him is, in the early 60s, sort of the Jonas Mekas world, the Stan Brakhage world, there weren't so much comedies. It wasn't really like the tone normally. to have it's almost an oxymoron to be like an underground comedy, you know. I mean, there were the Kuchar brothers and stuff, but even those were sort of more abstract and kind of arched, sort of camp. These were like comedies. Like he was trying to get laughs a lot, which is very cool and really distinguished himself. And I guess you could say he had the gall to actually entertain in these tiny underground Greenwich Village, you know, pads that were showing 16 millimeter shorts. He would make films that had very screwed up senses of humor and theater of the absurd kinds of humor, because he also did underground, like off Broadway theater.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just what I'm trying to say is he just distinguished himself from a large group of people who were making these, you know, 8 millimeter, 16 millimeter shorts that were really only being seen by like a handful of people within like a 2-mile radius for most of the 60s. So stuff kind of broke out. The film before this one, Putney, is Chafed Elbows, 1966, and it really is about an hour long, and it broke out. It got reviewed, I think, by the New York Times, the Daily News. It was a hit for years. It actually was paired with Kenneth Anger's Scorpio Rising, and traveled all around the country. He would play Ohio and, you know, Tucson, Arizona, you know, so that was really, he really broke through in some ways before Putney. And someone had the crazy idea, maybe this guy, we give him a little money and he could actually do something bankable, because they saw that there was some inside the underground film culture, there was maybe something there that could appeal with audiences. And they were right, actually. So it's kind of a remarkable story. But I want to add, every time I say this, he never sold out till the day he died. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And so he never like tap danced, except when he had to do a gig like, you know, Up the Academy, the Mad Magazine film, 1980. Film. Let's ignore that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is,
he would too,
what I'm trying to say is he broke through with Putney Swope. Back to the subject here. He broke through with Putney Swope, and tonally, the humor, the outlook, the strangeness of it is just like his first films, like Bobo 73 or something. Like nothing changed. But also critically, he got a little bit of a bigger budget, but the audiences changed in that larger groups of people were more open and more stoned, frankly. People were getting high at the movies, and they could take that ride with him where it would have been like, you know, 8 people in a 2-mile radius. It was met with more approval, and he somehow made this film. No distributor wanted it except one distributor from Cinema 5. One guy said, this is the famous quote, maybe say it, Evan. What did the guy who ran Cinema 5 say about the movie? You saw it?
Oh yeah, the guy who wound up actually distributing this movie, I mean, every other distributor had passed on the film up until a certain point, and they had screened Putney Swope, and this guy showed up late, you know, from this organization here, Cinema 5.
Right here. Cinema 5.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he owned a art house theater chain.
He owned a lot. He had like,
so that's good for him to have you back. So what did he say to Robert?
He basically said, I don't get it, but there's something here. I like it, and I'm going to distribute it. And of course, you know, him and his team would design that iconic image there you're seeing.
This is
for the poster.
The ad campaign by Cinema 5, who had a great eye. All their stuff has a great look to it. He also did Gimme Shelter too.
I love that that poster. Like Downey said, it's like when he saw it, he's like, "That's better than the movie."
Yeah,
and the guy's like, "Well, I guess we should go with it." Just before we jump off, I love that quote from him saying, "Like the guy who put this movie out, who made it a success, was like, I don't understand your movie, but I like it."
Yeah,
and it reminds me of that great quote from Frank Zappa. I'm not like a big Zappa head or anything, but there's this great interview where he's talking about what's missing from the world. I think it's like in the 80s. He's talking about what the problem is. And he's saying, like, you know, the world's just not as creative as it was in the 60s, because back then, all the guys that were in power were these cigar chomping guys that didn't know art at all. But they're like, I don't know art, but I believe in you, kid. You know, and but then by the time you roll around to the 80s, everyone who's like in A&R is like a hipster creative type who's like, I know what's cool. It's new wave, you know, and so like everything gets really boxed in and like cool becomes really boxed in. Yeah, and I just love that. You know, I don't know. It just when I heard that quote from it, it just tied.
they were lost and they were groping.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, do you guys want to hear Silver Apples? Right?
Yeah.
No, you don't want to hear it at all. Like, okay, I don't know.
Well, it's this time.
Right.
I mean, it's hey, we're talking about this cut. Going from the cusp time to now, where I think people in those positions are really starting to pay attention to these other cultural scenes, especially in New York City. What's happening in the Village, and as you said, Downey's films are playing at Bleecker Street Cinema. They're playing all around the Village, and there's that scene emerging, and somebody's at least smart enough to say, okay, there's a cultural movement going on right now.
I mean, look, his chafed elbows. There, for some reason, some maniac made a paperback of his film before Putney Swope, and like yeah, it was just it's well, I mean, this film is just before the cusp starts, so and also it's on the vanguard, just those kind of terms like avant-garde, vanguard, which simply means the definition would be they're in the front of the wave, of the trend, and and so Downey is one of those guys who just broke down the gates with this film. Right. But again, I say because there's Easy Rider, which was groundbreaking, even Midnight Cowboy. These films are groundbreaking in all these categories. X-rated over here, experimental film techniques there. But he was groundbreaking for a very odd, very cool thing, which was comedies, like stoned comedies, fractured, demented
satires,
like doesn't add up comedies and satires. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, like, he had his own lane. Like, I'm just saying, Easy Rider's not a comedy. It's not trying to be.
No.
So that's what's I just so special about Downey was that he was making LSD comedies.
Yeah.
I mean,
love that.
And no one else was doing that.
Yeah.
Really,
Real quick, before we just kind of dive further into this, I just wanted to kick it off with some personal anecdotes, maybe. Marcus, what's your I know this is a big movie for you too. I know you were super excited for this to win. What's kind of your just background, origin story with this movie?
I didn't know about it until I saw the original trailer play at the Alamo, actually, back in like 2002 or something,
Nice.
and I was like, what is that? Because the original trailer is one of the great ads that plays in this movie, and it's just the entire trailer it's the Face Off trailer. We'll talk about the trailer, but it's just the Face Off trailer pretty much. And the whole thing plays out, and then it just comes up and says Putney Swope at the end. And I thought it almost looked like it was like someone had cut down part of the movie to make the ad, like in 2002. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's like, no, somebody like they had the hip forethought to just like that, that this scene would really move through a trailer and get people's attention.
Right.
I mean,
and
it's such a hip way to look at ads, at the time.
Yeah.
It's not like and starring the He-Man with the girl, and they're going to have a volcano and it starts Friday. It's like this film is just like, here's a whole song, here's a whole weird joke.
It's so cool.
Title out.
It's so cool. And then when I saw the film, I probably rented it from like I Love Video or something in Austin. But like,
R.I.P.
I just really identified with that, like the burn down the system mentality. I'd never quite seen.
Yeah.
It was speaking something that I wanted to see in movies but hadn't seen before.
Good point. Yeah. And it still like feels like fresh and relevant and exciting even now.
Absolutely.
When you're seeing it, like it doesn't feel dated or like, or anything. It still packs
I think
a
the
punch.
subject matter and that's a really good point, Evan.
Yeah.
Dated.
Yeah.
Because, before I was saying, we were talking about like what films for 69, it was like Easy Rider. I do love it, but it is kind of just like, as far as the repetition of the tropes and like, get your motor running. And it's just like, all right. But actually, you know what? I'm going to dovetail into my anecdote because, get your motor running, right? And what am I wearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to ask, what are you wearing?
What is Tom wearing? Everyone always asks, what is Tom wearing for each episode? So here we go. This is a replica
Show it
of
off.
the jacket, the business advisor at the very start of the film. The guy comes into the helicopter into the office building. So here it is.
Take a spin. Wow. That's tight.
Yeah, I feel like it. So this is original. Now, let me explain. There are 5 of these on planet Earth. Here's one of them. Another one. Robert Downey Sr. was graced with it.
Wow.
Robert Downey Jr. was graced with the 3rd one.
Wow.
Louis C.K. Whoa, like plot twist. He got the 4th one, and there's a 5th one in the possession of an unmentionable.
I should have got one, I think. But,
Yeah, where's yours?
But anyway, well, let me circle back. So why the jacket? So
Why do you have
Sin and Family? I was
Right.
a head programmer and a creative director, and we had a dream thing. We had Robert Downey Sr. for like a weekend with his son, with Junior. We all coordinated, and it was epic. And at the time, the pre-scandal Louis C.K. did the Q&A before this film, Putney Swope.
Right.
And that's why the jacket exists for all of us. And so we had them made. So
cool.
I got to know Robert. I met up with him in New York. I mean, I've been a fan of this film, since I was a kid and all that shit. But so we met up, and I spent like a weekend with Downey Sr. Loved him. We had a lot of fun. He was asking his wife about getting the new Coke with Steva, and I just went Steva Wonder, and he laughed. so what I'm saying is he liked me.
Wait,
Like,
you're talking about the artificial sweetener in Coke? Is that what you're talking about?
He goes like,
Stevia?
"Hey, do we get the Cokes that have the Steva?" And I just went Steva Wonder, and he laughed. So again, all I'm saying is that we sort of bonded on that weird, like subliminal level of like, what are we talking about exactly? Like we got weird sometimes. It was great. And he also told me that his favorite rap song was this is such a deep cut. No one on earth knows this. OPP by Naughty by Nature was Robert Downey's favorite rap song. So, all I'm saying is that I got to know the guy, befriended him. We didn't stay long-term friends, but like we spent a long time in New York, and then we spent all that time in Los Angeles during this film festival for him. He's great. I loved him. My anecdote is, this never works, but I'm going to say it. I always do. He reminds me, if someone were to ask me to describe him, a Zen Buddhist monk, a very deep Zen Buddhist monk telling Groucho Marx jokes. Okay. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
That's
all
great.
right. Because it doesn't always work. So I love him. He's great. He died a couple years ago. Very sad. I'm done. I'm just like very sad that he died. Yeah. He was one of the good guys on earth. I really loved him. And I'm glad that his son, supports his legacy, and they put out that documentary recently. Yeah. Even our favorite director is a real supporter and always has been.
PTA.
PTA.
Oh.
I'm just saying respect. I'm just saying respect to him because he's a big Robert Downey fan.
He is.
Fan. There's a guy named Swope and Boogie Nights. So that's all. Okay. So it's personal, I guess, is what I'm saying. Okay. So that's my anecdote about what he in the film means to me.
Do you have something on that, Marcus? I was gonna take us in another direction.
No, I'm good. I think we should get a move on.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. So I was going to say, let's just quickly, if you guys don't mind, can we just talk about a little of the origin story behind how this movie came together? I think it's fascinating. So, and I'm sure we'll get into this. I'll kind of set you up, Marcus, if you want to take the ball from here. But it's interesting that, Robert Downey his day job, I guess, was making these experimental commercials for a place called Filmex. And I guess the story goes, go ahead.
Well, they were a film production house that was a vendor for the ad agencies, right? So then, because of Chafed Elbows, he got a job there as a filmmaker. And his job was, like you said, to make experimental films that would be basically experimental commercials that they could show the commercial company. They could show it at an ad agency, and someone might be like, "That's perfect for Butterfingers," but it's weird or whatever, So they would make an ad out of it. So,
I heard it was like they would do this real quick. One anecdote I heard him talk about is they made this really racy Preparation H commercial
right.
that was very had wide big zoom lenses and everything, and then the company saw it and they're like, yeah, there's no fucking way we'll ever be able to use this, but we're going to share it internally to get people inspired to come up with more out of the box ideas. And then the commercials would even play at festivals, in a setting that it might be more
so cool,
accepted, Go on.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. It sounds like the best job ever. And it does make it shines a lot of light on how this movie came to be. I mean, we'll get into more about this movie's but just the fact that there are all these fake ads in the movie, it starts, when you know that detail about his life, it starts to shed a little light on how someone could come up with this wacky movie,
Yeah.
But I guess so he was, the other guy that worked there with him was a black filmmaker. And one day the guy turned to Downey and he said, hey, I saw your paycheck, and it turns out that you make more money than me when we're doing the same job. And so
Twice
and
as
Downey
much,
said, well,
I think. Yeah.
twice as much. Holy smokes!
That's what I read.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So yeah, he was like, well, let's go talk to the boss. So they went and talked to the boss, and together, and explained the situation. And the boss said, well, I could give him a raise, but then I'd also have to give you a raise, and then we'd be in the same spot.
Yeah.
Which is actually a line in the movie,
Yep.
right?
The whole scene.
If I give you a raise, everybody's gonna want a raise. And if I give them a raise, they'll still be making more money than you. And we'll be right back where we started.
Yeah.
They'll
But
write
it's
the
of
whole
course
scene.
it's the token white guy
Yeah.
Right.
approaching the,
Yeah. It's the inverse.
black, staff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's
So
that's
there,
you can-
that was
yeah.
the little nugget of the idea that became this movie.
He did get the raise. Downey's always said
Oh,
that.
good.
Oh, okay.
The regular raise,
Yeah.
Great.
So then there you have this idea, kind of combining this, racial inequality that's sort of happening, mixed with, this ad agency world. And I don't know, guys, do we want to take this right into like the first big set piece of the movie? It kind of sets up everything, I feel like, for where it goes. But yeah, Tom, take us into how this movie unfolds, because it is quite amazing, and it goes with your jacket too. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I know exactly. The guy wearing one of these jackets. Unfolding is the perfect word, because that's how I've always felt. Like, I remember the first time I saw this movie, I'd heard about it a lot, and then I just finally rented it. And the jacket. And so when it started, I was like, maybe like everyone else, you'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like, it sure doesn't read as a comedy.
Right.
It's not, doesn't look like Wedding Crashers doesn't start, for instance, with wide angle zoom lenses in helicopters.
Yeah.
No sound, no music, long lingering. Everyone's a stranger. Everything's inexplicable. This old man, retiree, wearing this like biker outfit, gets off and he does a soul clap to another old man, and like funk starts.
Yeah.
That's not how you do. That's not how you usually like open up a comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're kind of going just the whole time like, I don't even know what's going on. What is everything? Is this New York? Is this like reality?
Yeah.
Where what? But it's a beautiful thing.
The only thing I'll say that like visually it reminds me of the way it unfolds is like a Kubrick film, from the era.
Yes.
Like it feels like a Doctor Strangelove or
Good
like a
call.
Yeah.
Very Doctor Strangelove.
The DP did say that he was a big fan of Doctor Strangelove, and
okay,
that
there you
Downey
go.
was likely
Yeah.
too. So
There
yeah,
you go.
So, yeah, it
nice
felt-
one.
Yeah, it felt like that to me. And that he is kind of a similar version of, well, they kind of have a lot in common in that, especially at that time, they're sort of making these, socially conscious, satire, political satire, kind of stuff, Strangelove and everything.
Yeah.
I think this movie
And
is
they
kind
both
of,
have that like, well, there's an absurdity of modern life
There you
in
go.
both of them.
Yeah.
Like like the Coke machine, like like you're violating the law if you break the Coke machine, all that shit.
yeah.
That scene in Strangelove.
Yeah.
It's just absurdity is really the word. And again, like I
Absurd,
was
yeah.
saying, he did theater of the absurd. Downey did, and absurd really is a very important word, because I think a lot of people, the 60s, the signifier is like trippy, and it's like, whoa, my senses are all screwed up, and it's like, this is a weird, wild sound. But there was a strong current of the absurd,
Yeah.
and Downey lives there more or less. And what I mean by that is just like, how does someone who wants to be sane, let's just say, approach mid-century 20th century,
Yes.
like under the cloud of like, oh, at any moment a couple insane people can end everything right now, and it almost happened at the Bay of Pigs,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and then there's all these assassinations. We're talking about how sour 68 was, and like what like it's just seemed like what exactly is going on with human beings on a fundamental level is being
Right.
explored
Right.
by someone like Downey in
Right.
Swope in a way.
Yeah.
It's about like and seeing all these people malfunctioning and like repeating lines of dialogue and just like wandering around and not adding up in the hallways. It's just tonally, he's not being serious about his point, but he's just sort of living in the space where this is reality, but isn't reality already kind of absurd? And
Yeah.
isn't
Yeah.
like why wouldn't the president be a little person? Like like
We'll get to that.
like playing with reality and kind of bending it to illustrate the inherent absurdity of the normal reality. That's what I'm trying to say.
And then just kind of getting into where the movie goes from, your jacket guy. Basically, it goes into, this room with all the white ad agency guys, and they're basically talking, and then the head of the agency comes up and gives this very bizarre, he's short-circuiting basically in front of them, keels over, has a heart attack, and then of course you see this very, and again, it does have also like a Mad Magazine quality, I think, too.
Yeah.
I
made that note too.
Yeah.
I wrote Mad Magazine on LSD.
Perfect. Where it's like this sort of satire where, you have all the executives then, pouring over this guy, taking his rings and his watches and things like that. And then they immediately go into
all these wild lines getting thrown around, like it looks like, you're right. It is like Mad Magazine with like the little speech bubbles around one panel will have like 6 different people talking.
Right.
There's that one guy going, "How many syllables, Mario?
How many syllables, Mario? How many syllables, Mario?"
Which is total like a theater of the absurd kind of exercise. Where one of his regulars, that crazy little old man, who's a non-professional, like most of his people are non-professionals, especially, "How many syllables, Mario?"
Yeah.
And he's saying it like it's a mantra. It is a joke, but not really a joke.
Right.
And it's also like, quote unquote, poorly delivered for his line reading to be, "How many syllables, Mario?" Because the concept of the normalness of the joke is he dies and they think that he is doing charades. And it's like misunderstand. And he's not dying, but to read the line so dryly and incredibly repetitively destroys the joke, which is really where Downey's home.
It is.
So how many syllables, Mario, is very significant to like. He's telling the audience right off the bat. Here we go. Hopefully, if they're stoned out of their mind, how many syllables, Mario is like right on time.
Yeah, and it's so it's funny right out of the gate. Like right out of the gate. It's super funny. And then so of course the absurdity continues. The guy's lying dead on the table, and basically everybody is kind of non-reacting to it in a way to go right into this vote of who's going to be the successor, who's going to be the new chairman. And of course they all since the only rule is you can't vote for yourself, so they all vote for the token black guy. They vote for the Putney Swope, and then of course he wins. And then there's this amazing moment where he says that line,
"I'm not gonna rock the boat. Rocking the boat's a drag.
What you do is sink the boat," and then it just cuts, and then it's a whole new staff.
Yeah, one of the great hard cuts of all time. That entire staff of middle-aged white men is just evaporates, and it's all young black people, men and women, all in dashikis and stuff. And the music, it's a music cue. The cut too, like funk music.
It's amazing.
And not only is it funny, story.
What's that?
There's just that funny production story like that. Like they shot it in a ad agency, right? And they didn't have the like ability to go around the whole space. So whenever Downey's talking about that scene, he's always saying like when the white guys are all at the table, the black actors are all hiding under the table because they had to hide under that scene. So just like, and so they shot like over the course of 12 hours. And then once the white guys were done with their shot, then the black guys would get up and do their scene, or whatever. So anyway, it's pretty amazing that funny production story.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So it's one of the greatest hard cuts ever, and just gets you right going. And then that's really you start seeing the opening credits playing over that stuff. This is the beginning of the movie. Like movie starts with Putney in charge of this ad agency, and it's just exhilarating to watch because right in there he's just disrupting everything and making it more legit and amazing. So I don't know, but yeah.
Well, everything's turned upside down, and it's Black Power is the main motivation for this company, and generating funds for themselves in their Black Power movement is important. And go fuck yourself to every corporation. If you're familiar with Mad Men, this is our obligatory Mad Men reference. They're not they're not kissing any corporations' asses. They're just like, this is what we're doing. If you don't like it, fuck off. That's their whole attitude. And of course, it seems like one would think, wow, Swope in charge it's going to be run into the ground. It's absurd. It's not the way you run an ad agency. But of course, it's wildly popular.
It all works out
because they make ads that are striking and different and wild. And in a way, their ads are like the existence of the film Putney Swope itself.
Yeah.
In that it seems illogical, maybe just a few months before, that a film like Putney Swope would be popular would be discussed on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show.
Yeah.
But it was. And so these ads were clicking with the zeitgeist of the summer of 69, you know, like we're saying. So in the narrative of the film, they actually become more successful at an ad agency than they ever were.
You know what I kind of wonder if, in a way, like when Robert Downey's working at this experimental, you know, creating these experimental ads, I wonder if they're sitting there creating these things too hot for TV, racy, crazy, weird. If they're like, man, if these just got out there, they'd probably fucking work, you know?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I wonder if that's kind of a little bit of that anarchic, you know, kind of vibe going into this, you know, is like, I don't know. It just, I'm sure they were thinking that.
Well, it's like, okay, here's the way I see it. It's like, sometimes I listen to Purple Haze, like Jimi Hendrix, and I try to imagine someone who, they don't even hate it. They just don't know that could be something on the radio. You know what I mean? Like they're used to, you know, Peggy Lee and Montavani, and maybe things get a little saucy with like Elvis, you know. They don't think there could be screaming and like, no, it just sounds like noise. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get your head in that space. So my point is like, you know, the time, well, the times are changing, just like the poster in the movie, you know. And so it's just, it's almost unimaginable, even just a short time or before the cusp, that this stuff could not exist exactly, but actually be in the cultural flotsam and be, you know, a cultural force. And so it's like, we're going full circle with everything you're saying. Like, Marcus, your point about like what Zappa said, which is, well, I'll quote Bob Dylan, you know, something's going on, but you don't know what it is. Do you, Mr. Jones? You know, it's like,
right.
That's kind of what it's just like, something's going on.
Yeah. And
I don't know what this noise being made by this guy, Jimi Hendrix, is. Side note, Downey in an interview said that he was casting Putney Swope, and he ran into Jimi Hendrix at a bar, and he said, "You want to do it?" And Jimmy's like, "Yeah, sounds awesome." So managers talked.
Wow.
And they discussed it, and they said there was a scheduling conflict for the shoot and a tour that Hendrix would be doing. So, guys, there could have been a world where we're talking about the Jimi Hendrix movie that Downey did, you know, called
That
Swope.
is insane.
And he might still be alive today, you know, because that could have like butterfly affected everything.
Kind of died earlier. Yeah. No, but well, somebody do an AI of that. By the way.
Oh my God, I can't.
I got an
believe
AI list growing.
Well,
Anyway, what are we talking about?
Well, I was saying, just to kind of bring it back, should we talk about the actor who portrays Putney Swope in the film? Maybe it's, you know, it's not Jimi Hendrix. It's help me out. Is it Arnold? Yeah, is that
Arnold
his name?
Johnson?
Yeah, and you know, obviously he's in Shaft. He's in a bunch of other things, but you know, he does do a great job in this movie, despite the fact that it's not his
great
voice.
He's dubbed.
Yeah,
yeah.
He dug you very much.
Your father was a horse's ass.
He's dubbed the voice you're hearing the whole time, Putney Swope. That's Robert Downey Sr. doing the voice the whole time. And he always knew that he would dub him because the guy started doing the Putney Swope character. And his voice, I don't know, it was like this maybe? Like, I'd die to know what this... Well, you hear his voice in Shaft, that's true. But he isn't quite the voice that Robert wanted, so he went almost immediately, like in the first take, he's like, I'm going to dub this whole thing later. And so, he's the guy who did the voice.
It was also because he couldn't memorize the lines, right? And they were like, kind of like run and gun schedule or something, and they couldn't quite...
You're right.
Afford the time, I guess.
He's a flubber. They couldn't do like more than a couple takes.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The guy they had another guy lined up too, but he was like in the union or something. They would have to make the whole movie union. That wouldn't work. So
no way.
Yeah.
So
he didn't want to replace him. He said that once he realized that he wasn't going to work, people were trying to hitting up Downey, being like, "Hey, fire this guy and hire me. I'll do it."
Right. Because they didn't know that Downey had a plan to just dub him the whole film.
Right.
So. So that was pretty wild. I didn't know that for years when I saw the movie, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's kind of trips you out."
It is weird.
You know?
Yeah, it is weird.
Because the voice is so elemental to the film.
It
is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. So
it is a weird detail.
Yeah, totally. Sure. Well, maybe obviously, like a big part of this movie, the thing that I think the most standout sequences in this movie, aside from the opening, is the ads themselves. The ads that are in the movie, which is just exhilarating to see. in so many ways because, like, they do play as kind of skits, you know, but they're so much more than that because it is such great satire, you know, for the time. Yeah. And I don't know, do you guys want to pick one?
Well, they're super visual too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's one thing that I think that makes this movie, it's part of this movie's secret recipe, you know, is that it's funny but it's also just like really strikingly visual and not a lot of like comedies are just in general, you know, and so this takes a lot of risks visually. And the commercials are just these like blasts. The whole movie's black and white except for all the commercials, which are this blasts of color.
Yeah.
And I learned that recently that Downey did intend that. I always wondered like black and white for the budget, you know, but they said no. He was saying to have those commercials really pop. Let's have the rest of the film be black and white.
Smart,
it's a good call.
Yeah, totally.
It's so cool, and they look so good. I mean, there's the Lucky Airlines and the Face Off commercials are like those are both two of my favorite '60s film you know visual moments. Yeah, I mean they're amazing.
Well, and I maintain I kind of sometimes I like to reduce things down like why was this a hit? Like what's my main takeaway? And I think to be honest, I think those ads, those parodies, specifically like, hey, it's a commercial parody where someone goes, no shit, when they're selling cereal.
Also has the added punch of .002 ESP units of pectin.
No shit.
That brought the house down, I guarantee. Summer of '69, no one had seen that. You know, no one's really going to thought like because everyone's getting attacked. You know, Kellogg's cornflakes. You know, and it's just like Kellogg's cornflakes. What the fuck? You know, so it's like that combination. I think he stumbled on that combination where, because he didn't have that obviously in any of his films before or since Chafed and you know Pound and Reese's Palace. To have such a simplistic thing, and what I'm doing is I'm just reducing it down to like it's just filthy parodies of stupid TV commercials that we're all assaulted with, and like it was the first of its kind, and it leads to things like Jesus. It's been going on all these decades later. You know, SNL, South Park, you know, like anything, everything. Oh, half of the stuff on Mr. Show. Bob and Dave's Mr. Show is like commercial parodies. You know, like there's a commercial parody for the Ding Dong Sing Song King Kong burger. Yeah, it's like this is so fucking good. This burger, like they do that. You know, in the '90s, Fairsley brother or Fairsley's. You know, good call. Nice deep cut. So anyway, so what I'm saying is like in a way, it's analogous to. This has always been a sad fact for me. Art film theaters were big in the mid to late '60s. Not so much because audiences were like, it was very stimulating to see blow up, you know. I mean, it was more like, hey, this girl gets naked for a minute in this movie, you know, and that it's true. It is true that what broke through for so many of these high-minded films and creating this world of like small theaters is just simply like there's fake humping and nipples and stuff. And I think that sadly, but who cares, is that what made Swope go from like being this sort of cult underground thing like Chafed Elbows was just like no shit, Kellogg cereal, you know. And I get it, you know. So so I think that's another big factor in the ads, because it is genius to have really destroyed fucked up commercials because they're ubiquitous, the landscape of advertising in our society, you know.
What's the one
fighting back?
I mean, and there's such great music in them too. You know, the music is
so
Charlie
good.
Kuva.
Yeah, and he was like
the guy.
Was he a Broadway guy or something? I thought, was he or
sure?
I think he might.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think he
might have had a connection with the hair people because
he was. Yeah.
Oh, okay, because Tom O'Horrigan
did
the music for like Chafed Elbows, and O'Horrigan wound up doing the music with.
Oh wow, there's a lot of hair connections in this movie.
Yeah,
there are. Yeah. Well, that's because of O'Horrigan and Downey working together. So I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, Charlie Kuva is amazing, and this is one of the greatest outrages of the universe for me. Is there is no Putney Swope soundtrack that came out?
Yeah,
it was a big film.
That's
had
true.
All this killer music. You could have the jingles. I could see it in my hand, like a nice $100 copy. This is what I'm saying though. So that doesn't exist. Sorry, you know, there's still no like master tape release of the soundtrack. But a year later, he made the uncompromising follow-up film Pound, which is most people can't even hang with it. They're like Laughing and Loving Putney Swope in a double bill. Pound starts and they're like, I can't do this. I'm out of here. Pound is not for civilians.
Right.
So, but what I'm saying, just to encapsulate this, is there's a Pound soundtrack that did happen, and I own one.
Yeah.
It's
and the
all
songs are
white.
ripping in that too.
Oh, the songs are great. And that's Charlie Kuva again, by the way. So,
wow.
The music really does it. It's just tiny little thing. There's a big hip hop connection with Putney Swope. Well, we're talking about the music. Hip hop connection with Putney Swope. De La Soul's famous the hook, got to have soul in 3 is a magic number, right out of Putney Swope. Breakbeats come. There's a lot of breakbeats that happen from the TV commercials, and you think about it though, all these guys, these producers were just grabbing VHS. They were just pulling it off the VHS.
Yeah,
tapes.
it's cool.
It's pretty hot. So
it is cool.
It's a legendary hip hop movie.
Marcus, is there anything else you wanted to say about either of the ads before we moved on?
Well, there's so many great. All the ads are great in this. There's like 6 of them or more maybe. But I think just the Face Off ad is so funny. That's I didn't know this till Tom told me last week, but that's Martha Plimpton's mom.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Insane.
That we had this conversation unrelated to this. But Shelley Plimpton and this guy Ronnie Dyson, and they were both in Hair at the time, and then came over to do that. That's why the singing is so good. That's why they have that great chemistry,
right?
And
again, you got to remember that they weren't in any context that like, oh yeah, you're part of this really fucked up movie. Yeah. Everything's all screwed up, and there's like a Black Power ad agency. They're just like, all right, it's called Face Off, and here's the lyric sheets.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
That's funny. That might be one of those print the legend moments, because how could you ever think that would be like a real ad? You know what I mean? Because they're like,
if they're making experimental ads, I don't know. Who knows?
Okay.
Well, I mean,
so.
the larger insanity of Putney Swope.
The full enchilada of what they're doing.
Right.
But the what's the line where he's like, I caught a flash of your beaver? What is he saying?
Yeah. Girl, I saw your beaver flash.
Girl, I saw your beaver flash.
Flash.
I'll never be the same.
Oh yes. Insane. And it's a pretty song. It's very crazy.
It's good, yeah.
That there's like this super pretty song that's prettier than like a jingle. It's like
it's photographed well, like they're on the bike, and they've got that sort of kaleidoscope effect,
How about this? Well, can I just say one more thing about like what it was early for? Like Putney Swope's early is there's the famous thing about National Lampoon, right? So National Lampoon starts a little later than this film, but what they were doing when they would do like a fake print ad parodies, they were making them all freaky, like Underground Comic, and like, oh, it's kind of crazy looking, and like Ralph Steadman-y and like wild. And then someone just went, what if you stop making them trippy, hippy, dippy illustrations and make fake ads and just play it totally straight? It's the Band-Aid logo.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like Wacky Packs kind of, it's just like play it straight and screw with it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that the Swope commercials are doing. Everything's conventional and it's straight ahead. And if you're not really paying attention, if the sound was down on your TV and Face Off came on, you wouldn't know anything's wrong.
Right. Advertising was such a big part of like 60s art, just as an aside, that like Warhol he drew, advertisements before, his job before. And like pop art is all like billboards and, packaging and, so it is.
I think Richard Lester did ad art too.
Oh, he did. I
think so.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
He's from that Discipline, I think.
The Hard Day's Night director. Yeah. So the other ad, just to mention, that Lucky Airlines ad, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that. Like the women in the negligees bouncing on that
Marlene Clark
moon room or something. What is it?
Ganja and Hess's Marlene Clark is one of the women.
Oh, right.
Wow.
How about that, huh?
That's shout out to One Fucking Hour on Ganja and Hess in the archives.
Ganja and Hess, that's right.
Always got to hit that. But go ahead, Marcus, what you're saying.
That's amazing. I love that. It's such a great ad to begin with. It's so long, all the bouncing and stuff, and it's that slow motion. It's beautiful. It's controversial. It's very sexy. It's like, it's outrageous, it's beautiful. And then I just love how the energy goes to that moment. They're just laying around like very dusted, you know, like
Yeah.
it is like like a LSD hangout kind of. It makes you feel tripped out watching the movie because it goes from that bouncy part to this just totally stone dusted moment that lasts a pretty long time with like
It's like the
sitar
perfect-
music. It's almost like
it's like the
Wonderwall or
perfect 60s
Opium
moment.
Den or something. Yes, it is, and it's a perfect 60s moment in a fake ad. But it's such a meta thing. It's like because it feels like an ultimate 60s moment, but it's an ad. It's a movie about advertising people that are using the counterculture to make money. You know, so,
like the coolest, trippiest scene maybe of the '60s is in this fake, weird context. You know, which is it's part of the genius of all this. And I don't know if you want to move forward. I was thinking if we get closer to the end of the film, because you know the general the meat of the film.
Before we do
is
to the end.
Oh, please.
But maybe just
I don't want to end. I don't want to.
Okay.
Never mind. We could go to the end when we get later. But
Okay.
If you had something,
I just want to talk about just again something that just screams absurd from this movie is the president of the United States of America, which I feel like we should address, and the first lady in those sequences. Obviously, you have a little person portraying the president of the United States of America, which is truly inspired. And I did
and the first lady.
Yeah, of course, yes, and the first
that
lady
helps the
even
pairing.
more, right? But I basically did read this thing. Well, you were mentioning the fact that Robert Downey was on Johnny Carson. And he was interviewed by him, and I think one of the questions that Johnny Carson had asked him was, why did you cast a little person, he used a different word, but why did you cast a little person as the president? And Robert Downey was just like, in his very straight sort of way, because he gave the best reading out of all the actors,
Yeah. And that killed.
It killed.
There's no tape of this, unfortunately, but Johnny liked Downey, actually, you know, and he was on it 2 times.
It's wild that he was on Carson talking about this movie.
What is the equivalent? Like
I guess like
Mark Borchardt and,
Jane Fonda was plugging this movie on Carson. Like when she went to go, she was plugging Easy Rider, like her brother's movie, and then she said, "But you know what you really should go see is Putney Swope."
Yeah,
and
lines
said the
around
next
the
day
block.
that the lines.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. She really made the film happen on a national
That really
level.
helps me understand it too, because I was always like, how did this movie come out? Who watched it? How? And
they were all stoned.
When you start to know these details, it starts to like patch in.
Well,
it
became a midnight movie. Almost immediately became a midnight hit. I've been going through like midnight movie archaeology with old ads in newspapers.com, and it just popped up, to like the 1981. It was a midnight movie like staple, which means like clouds. And the thing is, none of us know midnight movies like the way it was back then.
Oh no!
From what I understand, it was one huge cloud of marijuana smoke for 2 hours. And so you couldn't not be stoned. So, and you just kept cycling. The air was marijuana, So again, I always think of Putney Swope, like what if a room full of people were stoned? One thing about the president though,
I
love this tidbit. Is the best line readings of the first lady and president were they happen to be brother and sister. So that's fun.
Sure.
Like when they have the 3-way with the annoying photographer, brother and sister, good times. But I gotta say, for me, the pinnacle of this film feeling like Stanley Kubrick directing a Zapped comic, by Robert Crumb, is the presidential stuff, because it's just like, oh hey, let's see, what should we do? Let's see what's going on in the White House. Okay, Robert Downey. Well, the White House, here's what I see. They're getting stoned. They're having a 3-way. There's little people, and it's like, oh, okay, the White House, right? President. You know what I mean? Like it's so destroyed.
Yeah.
And like there's that great moment where that really boring guy is like a Henry Kissinger's trying to tell a joke, Mr. President, and they're just cracking up. It's Larry Wolf, is a staple of the Downey cast of characters who he continually used. He's the bald-headed guy.
Yeah.
And they're just laughing uncontrollably, and it's just like, what is even happening? What am I looking at, I guess is what I'm saying.
Real quick, because you had some show and tell items, earlier in the show. You brought up Zap Comics, probably my only time to show everybody my Zap 1.
Hey,
whoa!
One, no, the first.
Yep, this is the second print of the Zap 1.
Dude,
and
sweet.
Check it out.
That's a comic that I even give a shit about.
Check it out.
No, that's there.
Signed,
you go.
Robert Crumb, 92.
Damn, dude.
Ooh, wee.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So just
well, there you go. Yeah, we were
bring that up.
referencing. Yeah, no, of course.
Wow.
Actually, let's spend the rest of the time maybe something we wanted to talk about to dovetail where I was coming from. That was Larry Wolf, who's playing the guy who runs Borman. The Borman 6 car. Larry Wolf, the bald-headed guy. He's one of the cast of regulars, and if I'm not mistaken, he's in every single Downey
I think
film
so.
ever. So one of the beautiful things about Robert is that he liked real actors, and then these people who were just like the delivery boy he thought was interesting, and they became an actor in his films. And he had these people come up, like the really tall old man, Scott Gottlieb, I think,
Stan
and
Gottlieb.
the really old man,
Stan Gottlieb.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And how many syllables Mario guy? He's in all the others. So the thing is I love. There's this feeling where it's like I feel like he loves actors. He loves quirky actors, and that's another very forward-thinking thing that I really like about Downey.
Oh my God!
Which was like casting, like psychedelic casting.
Yeah. Well, it's cool.
That's not common.
No, it's not, and it's like something that's like kind of ubiquitous.
You know what it's like? It's almost like and then I'm totally shutting up, but it almost reminds me of Tim and Eric. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
You took the words like right out of my mouth.
We didn't rehearse this so good.
But no, it's just like, it's like a that would become ubiquitous with Tim and Eric. But it's this idea of like, he's out in New York, and where else are you going to find characters that you want to bring into your fucking work, like New York City?
Good point.
And so basically Stan Gottlieb, this guy who, is also, I think, in a lot, if not most of his movies up after this, he met him in a phone booth. That's where he met him, is in a phone booth. And he was basically just like, hey, would you be interested in being a movie? And he said, yeah. And same goes for like a lot of these beautiful women you're seeing in the movie. Like there's that one woman who's doing that crazy dance, like in the alleyway.
You can't eat a refrigerator?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can't eat an air conditioner.
Air conditioner.
Yeah, like she was just like a waitress at the place that he would just go to, like, to hang out. Like she just was a waitress, hey, be in the movie, and she was really great. So he had an eye for these kind of eccentric cats that he would see on the streets of New York City.
It's so advanced.
Collect them. He'd collect them.
For 1960, the late 60s.
Yeah.
And I mean, just what's his name? I'm screwing up the name. Gottlieb.
Stan Gottlieb. Yeah.
Stan Gottlieb. Cut to him in Greaser's Palace in '72, and he's wearing a dress, of course, and he's serving like tapioca to Hervé Villechaize, his girlfriend.
Insane.
So.
Yeah. On the Greaser's Palace tip, also Alan Arbus, who's like the main dude in Greaser's Palace, he's in this movie too. He's the guy who's always delivering the bad news. He's like
right.
He's on MASH, of course, but he's also Deanne Arbus's husband, which is so wild. Like,
Alan Arbus,
right. I guess she committed suicide like while they were making Greaser's
shooting
Palace.
Greasers. Yeah, not good, not cool.
Right.
But also they were like personal friends. Like I think that. I mean, just to get into like, I'm trying to transition to this because I actually met Larry Wolf and went to his house and hung out with him.
Jeez.
And there was also Don Calfa. He's in, I think, The Living Dead. Which Living Dead?
Return of the Living Dead.
Yes, he's in Return of the Living Dead. But yeah, so Don Calfa is a classic, and what I guess what I'll try to say is I'm trying to impart. He's friends first with these crazy people easily. They're friends, and it's like, hey, all my friends, we're gonna go crazy for a few weeks and do this movie.
Yeah,
and it's it's really touching, because I
cool.
got to meet these people and see him talk to them and everything like that. And he's still totally in touch with like Larry Wolf. Like they're like, how you doing, man? What's going on? How's your dog? And it's just like crazy people who got on this wavelength. And they just decided to just go balls out and make crazy films, including, here's my MVP, is Antonio Fargas.
Yeah.
This is important in our last 10 minutes. So our Antonio Fargas plays the Arab, and he met him. He was doing, he was on Broadway. He was like 17, but he was playing like an old man.
Yeah, with a cane, right? That's where it kind of comes from in the film.
So right. And so he met him and said, you're amazing. And, Antonio Fargas is more famous, as a Huggy Bear and Starsky and Hutch, and he's in a lot of blaxploitation films, Foxy Brown, I think. But he's so great. He steals the film for me as the Arab, who's just jive talking, and he's telling it too straight. And actually, I think the only direction and the only lines of dialogue, or the only direction, no lines of dialogue, that Downey gave to Fargas was, okay, you're this Arab guy. Okay, give Putney a hard time. Bye.
Yeah.
It was all ad-libbed.
Yeah.
You know, so he's like, look at you, man. Look at you shucking and jiving, you know.
Yeah, he's like,
so you're really experiencing the creative input of Antonio, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it's actually in Coffee, maybe, but yeah, he's like ad libbing. I thought that was so cool that he basically kind of give him the rundown, and he'd be like, "Okay, give me a second," and then come back with all the with his all his lines. It's really incredible.
Yeah. Well, Marcus, go ahead. If there's something you want to get to, just we should carve out a little second here for the end of the movie. Maybe a few other little anecdotes. Yeah, go ahead.
I think what I have is we'll just dovetail into that because I do love how this movie does have like some politics on its mind, obviously, and like I love how just thought maybe calling out some of the specific moments. I love the inversion of like racial politics that happens. Like there's a white gopher that keeps coming up and delivering, and they keep telling him to use the freight elevator, and then there's he kind of complains to like to the token white guy who they still left at the company,
Stan,
and the guy's like, he basically tells him to go. He's the guy from Chafed Elbows too, I think, right? So but he's like he tells him to use the freight elevator. Like there's no solidarity with the guy that's like on chain, so there's like some politics there, and then they treat the white maid like shit. So you get to see those kind of
that's getting very theater of the absurd, almost like a Jean Genet kind of move, but you're right, it's classic role reversal of really abusing the white maid.
And I just love how he dealt with that stuff. There was one other there's an interesting thing with the Black Power groups all show up once Putney gets the gig.
That scene.
There's this great scene where all these different groups show up, all these different groups of like black leaders show up, and they're all asking for money. Like now that like Putney's in charge of this ad agency, they're all asking for money. And Downey said that like I guess at one point like Eddie Murphy wanted to like remake this movie, and in their few conversations, Eddie said that was the one scene that he knew that he wanted to keep because he said that felt very that rang very true to him. That like
he personally could relate to it.
He could personally relate to that. People showing up and asking for money. So, and I think it is sort of interesting, like because you expect that Putney is because he does say like I'm not gonna rock the boat, I'm gonna sink the boat, and you think that he's going to break the system down, right? And so all these people show up that are like revolutionaries. And Antonio Fargas's character is like a revolutionary, and then they start making these ads, which are like more crass than like ads are normally, right? And they're a hit and they're a success, and like Putney becomes a big star, and people are asking him like, they're like saying, "Hey, your ads are so good that people don't even leave the house to buy stuff or burn anything down,"
Right.
And like so, it's just interesting because you think that he's going to be. Like I said, I identified with the revolutionary concept of the very beginning of this movie. You think he's going to be revolutionary, but really he becomes sort of greedy, and he starts wearing, I guess there's like a little bit of a Castro. You were wearing a Castro outfit.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Getting assassination attempts, gets paranoid, but it's all sort of the message gets. It does take an unexpected turn there. That like at least I felt like so that instead of being a revolutionary story, it becomes that he ends up, being a corrupt player as well. And even so more corrupt,
Well, actually, but that's the thing. I think it is it's almost like a one act underground theater play. That's like a representation of like a typical cycle of a revolution, like Cuba or something, the story of how it happens, where it's like, or like we won't get fooled again, the theme of that Who song, you know what I mean?
Right.
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss, No, but the thing is, and this is the end of the film, and I wanted to get to this is perfect. Is Putney realizes everything you're saying, and he's like, what am I doing? I'm spinning my wheels, and we are just like, how are we different from the old guard that we replaced? And he says, fuck all this, I'm moving forward. And what does he do? He does this extreme move where he just takes the cash, his cut of the cash, which is all in a basketball court in like the parking garage, which is insane, bags of cash. And he takes his cut, and he says like, give it to, divide it among the staff, and I'm out of here. He's moving to like an island or something like that. No, he says, I'm going to give the cash because they passed the test. Remember this? Sorry, I'm confusing things.
Yeah.
He says, let's sell out to his staff. Let's just do garbage. We're on the right track. Let's make 3 times as much money by just doing even worse, crass, stupid you know, like unrevolutionary advertising. And then at first they're like, oh, that's terrible, Putney. But then they come back to him and they say, whatever you say, man, we're on your side. Let's go. And they failed Putney's test. So they don't get the money. And the Arab gets mad and he sets all the money on fire, which leads to, and now I'm shifting to a stylistic tone. Because I'm a big, what's the last shot of the movie? Targets had such a great, what's the last shot of the movie?
It did.
The last shot of this movie is this great wide shot of after the fire had raged and been taken out. It's a very, you know, echoey, like, you know, a parking garage. You just hear drips and just the burned out husk of where all the money was deposited, and then just the credits roll. And what do you guys think? Like, it's not a typical, like I'm saying, wedding planner. Wedding
Crashers.
Date. What is that called? Wedding Crashers.
Yeah,
kind of comedy.
it's a sour note to end on for a movie that has been pretty, you know, just like progressively funny and absurdist. But then it kind of winds up on that note, which I think it's great because I think it gives it more weight, you know, and I think
it goes out with a bang too.
It does.
I mean, it's the classic thing. Like it ends with a big explosion.
Well, but we're saying it's a big tonal shift where it's like we're a million miles from a joke right now.
No.
For a few reasons.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, we are. But I think one thing that's really amazing about this movie is that like there are these sections of the movie where between gags or set pieces, you know, it kind of allows the viewer to kind of think, you know, about sort of like, you know, just like what's going on and like about like the, you know, inequality of things and the, you know, humiliation and all this kind of stuff. It just makes you think about like, of course, but looking at the inversion of this world that we're in with Putney Swope, the movie does allow you those opportunities like to take a breath and to like think about the things you've seen and what they might mean. And I feel like that way, like that's like kind of, we sort of end on that with the ending too. It kind of just lets it all kind of, you know, seep in, you know.
And these are kind of theater
tone.
of the absurd, like mechanisms, you know, in illustrating a point, you know, and its meaning.
Marcus,
there's not a lot of films that have that tone, you know, that are like that are anarchic and absurd,
right?
But also meaningful and not just completely empty, you know, like.
There's no point to Groove Tube that came out a few years later.
Right.
That's just laughs. It's
Kentucky
just laughs.
Fried Movie really makes you think.
Exactly. It's a real thinker. Yeah. Airplane, you know. Well, that's true. And it makes it very unique.
One thing I want to just quickly, if I can just end it here on this, is that, you know, we saw it briefly, but the poster of the movie, I think, is really, really, truly incredible and very inspired. And I think, you know, if you're going to make a movie about an ad agency, you better have a freaking wicked ass poster. And it's incredible that, you know, it's up Madison Avenue, like how, you know, like the meaning of that, of course, the middle finger with the woman there as the middle finger. It's just an incredibly inspired, amazing design.
Yeah.
So
that's a great point. If you're going to make a movie about the ad agencies,
gotta have
an incredible poster.
All right. Woo, we could have kept going and going and going on that one. That was
That's great stuff.
1 fucking hour, of course, on Putney Swope. 1 hour was not enough. Definitely for that one. That
never
hour
is,
flew
honestly.
Because
by.
Downey is also this whole world.
Yeah. I think, guys, that Putney Swope could be a contender for a future audio commentary, perhaps, on the Patreon. Shout out patreon.com/1fucking-hour.
It's a really good idea.
Where we're doing
fun,
our audio commentary tracks. Maybe we'll do Putney Swope and we'll get into some more things. Look at it scene by scene. That could be fun. So
no shit.
And I promise you, I will never foist pound on you guys and the general audience. But I am tempted for my next birthday.
That could be a good birthday.
That'd be the only way I could do pound.
That's true. Yeah. You'd have to wait for your
but
birthday.
Pound is currently on YouTube if you guys want to check it out.
Okay.
It's hard math. It's fucking algebraic.
It's
fucking
math
Robert
metal.
Downey.
It's like Robert Downey math metal. Okay.
Yes.
Got it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening to 1 fucking hour on Putney Swope. That was our 1969 film. And of course, you know how this... Yeah, you know how this works now. We're getting into the groove of things. Next week, of course, we're going to be doing episode 70, which will be, of course, a movie from 1970. We have chosen 4 movies.
Cue the Stooges song.
Oh.
They have a song for these years.
They do.
That's true.
Anyway, 1970. Something.
Yeah, that's good.
I was just 1969 still playing in my head.
Yeah. 1970. So we have picked 4 movies for you to vote on right now as you are listening to this. If you're listening to this in the first 24 hours of this episode hitting the airwaves, you have a chance right now to go to our Instagram page at One Fucking Hour, click on the stories, and right there is going to be a poll, and you'll be able to vote.
Now you have 24 fucking hours to do it.
You do, or else it's not going to count. So 24 hours to vote, and you get to pick one of these 4 movies. Whatever wins is the movie we're going to be doing for the year of 1970. So we're going to go one by one with these, and we'll give you a little taste of what the hour might be like. So, guys, first potential One Fucking Hour on 1970 would be 5 Easy Pieces. Tom?
Oh, wow. Me? No. God, I mean, Jesus Christ. It's Bob Reiffelson. It's BBS, that really cool crew.
Yeah.
The cool kids who just did Easy Rider the year before. They do 5 Easy Pieces. Jack Nicholson's now not the breakaway supporting person in Easy, but now he's the lead. And they proved that they can make a grown-up movie.
Yeah.
They could make a movie that's not just, like tripping balls and getting on the highway. It's like it's a real sour film. Great ending, great last shot.
Unbelievable ending.
And and a star-making performance by Nicholson. I'm a huge fan. It's bifurcated, and it's almost subtly shocking, the transition of Bobby Dupree, the person you're following, Nicholson's character, and how he's over here in the first half and over here in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the big new Hollywood movies, and it was a huge hit and very influential.
Yep.
It's basically our representation in this list of the period of time where it's like Two-Lane Blacktop and all those kinds of films,
which are coming up soon on the horizon.
Right. Next year.
Marcus, tell us about pick number 2 here. What this might be like. We're gonna do One Fucking Hour. It might be One Fucking Hour on our first concert movie for the show. One Fucking Hour on Woodstock. Okay, what's that going to look like?
Yeah, so it's an amazing documentary. It's really fun. I watched it a few months ago, but maybe last year. There was like a 5-hour cut or something that was on TV, and I was just swimming around in Woodstock for like 5 hours, and it felt great. So it's a really interesting film. Culturally, you get to see a lot of the crowd and like what's going on with them, and the filmmaking's really top notch. There's a lot of interesting people making the film, a lot of interesting photographers out working out there. Was it
like who?
Well, isn't it a Maisley?
The Maisels,
right?
Scorsese.
Yeah, Scorsese. Right? That's right.
Supposedly Lucas too, right? I think that we talked
that
about
I never
that.
heard, but definitely Scorsese.
Maybe he was there for Give Me Shelter. Actually, I think
you're right for that. Yeah,
Jesus. Okay.
But, anyway, just a good fun time to talk about the music, talk about the show, talk about the culture, get really deep into hippies. So I thought that could be pretty fun.
Yeah, and wavy gravy, and all that stuff. Right.
We're gonna make breakfast in bed for 500,000 people, man. That always cracks me up. There's something about that.
That's good.
And then it's just love too that it's like 8 a.m. and the Jefferson airplane's going on, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I
Hendrix
never
went on
quite
at like
realized that
7:30 in the morning. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. Well, they're all still high as a kite from the night before.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I mean, if nothing else, it has that Sly and the Family Stone performance, which is really epic.
Yeah,
choice,
really incredible.
Yeah, really, really amazing. So could be One Fucking Hour in Woodstock, or we talked earlier speaking about midnight movies. This is one of the big monster midnight movies. It could be One Fucking Hour on El Topo. All right.
Did we pick that? I mean, did we choose? Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Holy Christ. Do we need to talk about that?
I mean, it's just, it's a monster. Alejandro, Jodorowsky, our first film of his, getting into his trajectory from, mime to psychedelic Western hero. It's pretty crazy shit. Obviously, it's a monster. I'd love to go to town on El Topo. I'm a huge fan.
I would do a commentary on that,
Oh, great idea. Wow.
Let's keep that in mind, actually.
Or Holy Mountain.
Yeah,
Holy
y'all are
shit.
both later.
Or
yeah,
both.
All of them. Yeah.
No, El Topo's a huge deal.
And then Tusk.
Tusk.
Of course. Tusk. Yeah. right. Cusp on the tusk. Tusk on the cusp. No, but I've always, Holy Mountain gets a lot of eyeballs, like attention, because it's just like, oh my God, here's a monkey, a chimpanzee, and he's in a yoga position.
Yeah.
Right. But like something about El Topo is great because it's just really clean. It's just very stark, unlike unlike Holy Mountain and all its sprawl, which is incredible and very satisfying.
Yeah.
It's like a triple album with a gatefold opening and shit. This one is just like a fucking hardcore 45, like single kind of movie, comparatively. That's great. I've seen it on the big screen and it's
it rips.
It's really jaw-dropping, and it's also bifurcated in a weird way. Almost like the other film that we're going to mention in a minute here. I'm seeing a trend. Okay. This is weird. This is bifurcation year.
Yeah.
5 Easy Pieces is cut in half.
Yep.
El Topo is cut in half, and
we're gonna get into this monster here. This is the fourth choice. 1 fucking hour on Performance from 1970.
Dude,
holy shit! Yeah, the ultimate bifurcation, if you will.
You might need to tape my mouth shut or something.
Yeah,
I will not shut up. I know I never shut up, but I will not shut up on that one.
The return of the spray bottle. Yeah, so obviously we have
Marcus is in the house.
Yep.
Like Mick Jagger's parked outside Keats parked outside the shoot because he thinks that Mick is going to fuck his girlfriend. Come on, Marcus. Shoot with the Stones.
It's incredible. But we have talked about.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, go ahead, Marcus. If you got to take that bait there.
Oh no, it's not really. I know. I just love the movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I love the soundtrack, especially as a big winner for me too. The sort of the Ry Cooder version of that Stone song, and then The Last Poets, of course, just like
I was just
epic.
This is how you looked cool in 1970. Yeah, my new movie's got The Last Poets on it. Holy shit.
True.
That's still not cool. That's cooler for 2037 or something.
I know, that's true.
So, no, this movie's insane. It's got 2 directors.
Yeah, 2 monsters, too.
Look, if we don't do it this time, we'll do it. We're going to do Performance. It's overdue.
Yeah, so I was going to say, we've covered Nicholas Roeg on the channel twice now, I believe. We did Walkabout. Did we do a different one? Bad Timing. That's right. We did Bad Timing. We did Walkabout, and Donald Cammell is a fascinating the other half of the creative force in this Performance. And we've
talked about Lucifer Rising.
We talked about him a little bit in Lucifer Rising, but we've really teased him, and he's a incredible backstory in and of himself as well too. So there's a lot to get into if we do Performance, Mick Jagger, the whole thing, the editing, There's a lot to get into with that movie.
God, all this shit's it's all like 6 degrees of separation, except for it's like 3 degrees of separation, right? In the 60s, there was about 200 cool people, and they all knew each other.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, absolutely. So, there's photos with Dennis Hopper and Jodorowsky together and stuff like that's that
right. And Donald Cammell. There's a photo of Hopper. Who did Easy Rider, which didn't get picked here. Yeah. And then El Topo guy, and then
Kenneth Anger.
Lucifer Rising, he just died. And there is one with Cammell. God, Jesus Christ. Yeah. No, because there's a point in time when Jodorowsky's fucking around and doing some editing of the last movie for Hopper in the desert in Taos. That happened.
That's right.
That's what these years. These are crazy ass years, man. That's why we decided to do this.
That's right. So, all right, your choices are 1 fucking hour on 5 Easy Pieces, Woodstock, El Topo, or Performance. So, if you're listening in this 24-hour window of this episode going live, head over right now to the Instagram page at 1 fucking hour. Click on the stories, and the poll is there. And get your votes in, man. I mean, these polls have been so close.
Very close. Every vote does matter. It's not like... Straight to people, it's not like there's 2 votes over here and then 97% for here. It's no blowouts.
Yeah, and there's been no blowouts. Yeah, not even close. So, and I was very surprised. Last summer got a lot of love last week, and so this is
that was very cool.
It was cool to see that. So very excited for what you guys are wanting to hear and see.
Idea.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. So, all right. Anyway, check that out. Of course, again, additional shout out to the Patreon, patreon.com/onefuckinghour. Best way to support the show. And you also get those audio commentary tracks as well. Super easy to sync up the movie and the visual with the audio. We give you the instructions how to do that. And there's a little bonus for Star Wars. We did actually record the commentary track to a 35 millimeter print version. And we give you all the instructions for that as well, too. So, anyway, guys, it's been great. It's been amazing. But we can't leave anybody hanging there, of course, without their mama. Well, actually, this is kind of like how many syllables? How many syllables? 2
How many syllables? Mummio? Momino?
Yeah. 2 Momio Sybils. All right. Okay, everybody. So that is going to be...
How many Mummins, Mario?
Yeah.
Mummin.
Exactly.
Oh, my God. Yeah, see, you know what? Good call.
I tried.
Our Mummin is our Robert Downey kind of vibe.
It is. There you go.
Right?
There it is. Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
There you go. So, all right, everybody. Well, have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next week for 1970. What's it going to be? I have no idea. You tell us. All right, everybody. Take care. See you later. Goodbye.
Everybody.
Is there not enough humor in the American society?
That's where it is. I really think that's what's wrong. You know, if everybody could get turned on to not taking themselves too seriously and having a sense of humor about themselves, I think we could get over a lot of things that we take very, very seriously. We could approach the serious matters in a different way, like war and poverty and all the things that are going on.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man.